finish a project. Remember, communicating with your child's teacher is vital for student success.
Sponsored by the Nebraska State Education Association, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People Seeding Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here.
I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
College football in Lincoln, America. The time has come. Start your game day off right with the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Join the Ticket crew as they bring you all the coverage you need to get you ready for the action. It's the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show, powered by Sunbelt Rentals. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador, Select Plumbing, Jimmy John's, Lincoln Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits, Fleet Feet, Muir's Cheese Spread on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I'm Christy. I used to smoke cigarettes. I had smoker's cough and severe shortness of breath, and I knew I had to quit. Then I tried e-cigarettes, but I just ended up using both. I really didn't start to get better until I quit smoking completely. My tip to you is just cutting down on the number of cigarettes you smoke isn't enough.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is Bud Seinhorst, President and CEO of LIBA, the Lincoln Independent Business Association. Join us every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m. on 93.7 The Ticket for the LIBA Business Hour, as we discuss local business and highlight those who are thriving in the Lincoln area. It's the LIBA Business Hour, Saturdays from 9 to 10 a.m. on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. This is Inside the Huddle with Nebraska Football Hall of Famer Jay Foreman.
Fires a pass, and it's intercepted by the Huskers at the 25, Jay Foreman. And Foreman takes it down to the 19-yard line of Oklahoma. Another big play by the Blackshirts.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
Good early morning. Again, we are here inside the huddle with Jay Foreman, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. For all your needs for pain and relief and many, many more options there. Just saw them this week. I'll see them next week. They do a great job. And I think we're going to try to effort either Dr. Razin or Dr. Finn to come in on Old School. It's a good time during the bye week to show appreciation. Plus, they would not be too happy getting up at 6:30 a.m., Harrison. So, look, we are brought to you here by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Inside the huddle after Nebraska goes 3-3 after a road win at Illinois on Friday night. A victory is a victory. You can say an ugly win is better than an ugly loss, and that is the truth. But I also think that instead of focusing on technically, not technically, but factually it being an ugly win, I think is like, there is some growth there because Nebraska over at least the last 8 years had plenty of ugly losses where you tried to lose the game, which showed a little bit of that the last fourth quarter. Like we played 3 quarters decent where you could kind of like, okay, we're on the road, a little bit after Michigan hangover, but then the last 4 series between both teams was not very good football. That's probably something that you want to actually get out of your database, but Nebraska found a way to win. The defense stepped up and closed it out. I think this was if you say it's an ugly win, I do think it's a complimentary win. All 3 phases played huge, came up huge. Obviously with the defense starting it off, started a little slow, which was a little worrisome. But you have to expect that the first 15 plays for a team generally are going to be the best. So Illinois started out in good rhythm. Some of it was their doing. I think a lot of it was our doing. But we recovered and got a legitimate fourth down stop at the goal line, or goal line stand. Nebraska came right out of there with a big explosive play. So that showed growth there. And then the end of the first quarter, you're up 3-0. So we made a field goal and got it going. Anthony Grant. And then, we got up 10, 17-0. And then we were able to withstand at the end towards the end of the second quarter, an explosive touchdown. Now, I know Tony White feels comfortable with us, playing man-to-man. We did it. And, look, they made a great play. It was a good pass, good play. And right there, Nebraska fans are generally like, uh-oh, here it comes, right? We're able to go in the half, probably not the best series before the half, which I think is probably something that we're going to touch on. It's the 6th game in a row that the last series before half, the play calling, time management, situational football, all going to one just isn't tightened up. And then obviously it was a rock fight the second half. Made 1 field goal, missed another, tons of turnovers to end the game. Clock ran out, and it was a good victory for Nebraska. It's good for this team here when you have a coach that's teaching them time, how to win. It's not going to be pretty all the time. And with this team right now, if you want to be realistic, right, it's not going to be pretty because they're playing a totally different type of brand of football that they realistically haven't been approached by a coach, and not only through his words but through his actions, right? So essentially you're actually actively acting like you want to play complementary football. We want to run the ball, big emphasis on keeping it close and be able to pull away late, play good defense and good special teams. Now, it hasn't always worked out like that, but when you go from I call it a high risk, high reward offense that we had before, right? Whereas so much emphasis was on Adrian essentially making all the plays. When you have that emphasis on one player or one position group, then you get high turnovers, right? And then the offensive line hasn't, or at least then was more detriment than at times it is now. So, I always say is, underneath the the bumps and stuff like that, or the bruises. I think there's some good stuff there. And I think there's stuff that, going into a bye week after a victory, I think you can make some big, huge steps in improvement, both individually as players and collectively as groups and overall as a team. And to be honest with you, individually as coaches, collectively as, say, like position or like as, offense, defense, special teams, that involves all of them. So I think they can all improve. And if that's the way they approach, they'll go out in the second half of the season. Now, it won't be easy, but they can really get a head start. They can really, get back on track, right? You're 3-3. I think before the season, Harrison, we would have been okay with being 3-3, right? You're like, okay, at least we're on track to get a bowl game. And that's, sadly enough, that's where we're at. And that's, as sad it is, this is where we're at. Just deal with the reality. That's the best way to deal with it. Now, is it where we want to be? No, but you're not going to go from over the last 4 years not even being close to making a bowl game, right? And even before, even Mike Riley, right? So just take the last 6 years, not even being close. I think 17 was last bowl game.
Yeah, 17 might have actually been 16.
Okay, 16.
Yeah.
So 6 years not even being relevant to just like, okay, we hired a new coach, 50 new players, new staff, and it's a whole new genre over there, and be like, okay, now we're gonna go and we're gonna be consistent. We're gonna be a consistent football team, an explosive football team. We're gonna have depth, and we're gonna be able to play exactly like how he wants to play. It's not gonna happen, because if that was the case, to be honest with you, if a coach was able to come in and do it exactly like he wants, or let's just say 80-85%, he wouldn't be here, because you had already won games. Yeah. And so this it's not an excuse, it's just factual. So I think the Illinois game was maybe a glimpse into what it's going to be. It's going to be a tough, grinded out type of game. He says we're a defensive led team. Obviously it showed. And we need to continue to get better there as well. And so this is the bye week, I think, comes at a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say this too, like you kind of talked about it, but with the special teams playing the way to Ed Foley and Tony White, that was a hell of a coaching performance by them. And I do believe that we're just going to have to keep leaning into this defensive identity. Box said it all the time, but I agree with him. If you're heading into the season thinking 9 wins, like, yeah, you're going to be disappointed with some of these losses. But if you kind of kept a level head, thinking first year build, bowl games kind of your goal, like they're still on track.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been pretty. I mean, let's not be,
Yeah, the offense wasn't good.
Yeah, let's not be like a knucklehead here, but it hasn't been pretty, but is getting the job done. And ultimately you can learn a lot from, wins like this. Like when I played in college, we never had to go through this. So so you have to like go and talk to other people that I've played with in the pros when they had to go through this in college and get some sort of like what it's like. And it's not easy. I mean, the only thing I can compare it to is being down in Houston. And I came from a winning franchise. I came from the ultimate winning college program. Then I go into a professional locker room. Then you go to Houston, and this is what it's like. Be honest with you. We had a really stellar defense. We had an offense we had a rookie quarterback in David Carr, had a porous offense. I mean, we had the worst offensive line, I think, in NFL history. I think we gave up 82 sacks. And had some different pieces. But over time, the bricks that were laid, not right now, obviously Houston has a new coach, but when Gary Kubiak was there, then you saw him take off in a consistent playoff performer and in Bill O'Brien. And so that's where you go to a 10-year run. And so that's where Nebraska's at right now. And it's tough sledding, but when you look at it, it was kind of an even game. First downs were even. Now we outgained them rushing. I think we gave up 24 yards in that rushing in that first drive, and they only ended up with 21. So that's a good job of making some adjustments. And then Illinois, got it way over their skis and threw it 47 times. That's probably not what they wanted to do.
We kept them out of offense. They wanted to get the run game going because they're typically 50-50 run pass. And yeah, they were playing behind the sticks.
And so I'm sure that's something Brett Bielema, a former offensive line coach, that's what they were built on the last 2 years. Probably wants to get back and get that in check. But you know what? It's not all on the play call. Nebraska did a pretty good job after that first series of getting after it and making some plays, and it wasn't pretty. And that's what the defensive effort. I would say this, and we're going to just bounce all over the place because I want to look at the stats, look at that.
And we do have one from the text line too,
Yeah.
but I want you to go ahead and get to your thoughts.
And then the very last segment, we're going to talk about the two dumbest coaching decisions, or the one most dumb. I've never seen anything like that at the very end. So then we'll end on a happy note going into the bye week. But I think with the defense, remember when Tony White said, "Listen, we got a bunch of guys playing hard, and they know where to start at A, so they know where to line up, and it's not perfect. They don't go from A to B and then C is the final destination every single time. But when he looks up, every single time you got 3 or 4 hats there at C. That's what that first drive was like, because they were on their heels. But to the blank eye or the virgin eye, you're thinking like, oh, we're getting gashed. A lot of it was because of us. Like when they threw that quick little screen to their sideline, Hartzog lost leverage.
Yep.
When they had the run kind of closer to the red zone, they had a good I'll call it a T or end and tackle stunt where the end comes down and nose wraps around. Well, Nash didn't get out wide, so he caught the corner, right? But then you saw 2 or 3 guys getting there. So those are just the little things that bit Nebraska in the butt. And then you get on the 4th down, and actually people need to understand when you get in the red zone, defense gets a little bit easier if you know how to communicate. There's nowhere else for you to go. I don't got to play 10 yards off of you when you're on the 4-yard line. If you're going to beat me, you're going to have to jump over me or beat me on leverage. And so Nebraska was able to get that goal line stand, which I think really infused some life into the team. It gave, I can't speak for Satterfield or Rule, but I think it's like, okay, we just bluffed in the first 2 hands, and we knocked 2 people out at the poker table, and we got the most chips. Let's throw something else out there. Let's see what we can do. And that's when you go 43 yards deep to Washington and then take the whole life out of the stadium. Now, did it turn into a touchdown? No, but those are cause and effects plays.
Well, yeah, the field position too. You go 3 and out in the back of your end zone.
They're getting the ball again at the 40.
Yeah.
Right, with the wind conditions.
Yeah, it was a huge play to get that down to Washington. And then did we get his injury status after the game?
Nothing definite.
Okay.
Doesn't look good, but we'll always wait for them to do it.
Okay.
They'll, Rule update people on tomorrow. But I think when a game here, what's funny is like you look at it, total plays 73 to 66. That's even Steven. Yards are within 2. But Nebraska pretty much dominated that game. The thing that I think hurt Nebraska was the penalties.
Yeah.
The offsides. Now I know they had, some line shifts and stuff like that. And I'm going to tell you guys forever listening, we're going to say this and then we're going to go to the text line. From a defensive standpoint, you put that in for teams that aren't disciplined or have a history of jumping off sides. You generally, there's 2 ways you do, 2 offensive units you do it to. A very young unit, right? Because they're jumpy, right? Which kind of is Nebraska because they're young in this system, right? So it's almost like they're so overzealous to be perfect that you can make it work against them. You shift and stuff like that with them. And then for teams that are undisciplined. So in the pros, you do it against, like when we play the Raiders, we played the Raiders one time at home in Buffalo. They were at 10 penalties at halftime. It was the longest first half, but I'm telling you, we were up 24-0 just because we'd get the ball at the 40 and we were rolling on offense. You know what I mean? Now the Raiders started to come back, but it was too little too late. So the only black eye I would probably say is the penalties. And it just comes from, at this point, with the amount of plays that these offensive linemen have played, and I know there's some other guys, they need to really lock in on it. And that takes a singular focus to be, disciplined. And here's a tip that for people out there, when I did play offense. So Bud Grant, rest in peace, was my dad's coach. His son, Mike Grant, who probably is one of the best high school coaches ever in high school, and particularly in Minnesota, was my coach. So when we played in road games, we would have we'd say we do blue 22, right? So blue, since it has is it 2 syllables when it says blue versus yellow? That's blue's on 1, red's on 1, orange is on 1, yellow's on 2. Now, if you caught on to it, right? Then once we hit the 22 or 55, 44, when you got the double numbers instead of 23 or 27, that's what's on 1 or 2. Or if we wanted to go on 1, we'd be blue 18 or, you know what I mean? So to make it a little bit easier. So they got to figure out a way to get this nipped in the bud because it does hurt the momentum of our offense. And in particular, we can't take too many steps back. We're lucky enough the defense was humming. So
are you buying at all what Matt Rule said, in the press conference about them mimicking the cadence, yelling go, yelling stem?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, we did that. Now, like when I would move my defense, I'd say move or something like that, and we got it. Now they do, when those defensive line move, when they kind of jerk with it, that's the way to deal. You got to be locked in. Like I said, when we played against the Raiders, it worked against the Raiders. We played against the Colts, it did not work.
Good point.
Because Peyton Manning would go off. Now it might have worked here, here or there, like a couple times, but not to the magnitude that it worked. I have no doubt that Illinois was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a sign of desperation. Remember a couple years ago at Iowa when they were doing it, the clapping and stuff like that?
Yep.
Teams would do that. That's just gamesmanship. Is it cheating? No, I think it's that gray area.
But you're saying if the great teams, they don't got a problem with it regardless.
They generally can play through it, but also you can't. It does work. It does work,
which we saw.
And if they have, so sometimes I'll say this real quick. Sometimes people can catch your cadence on the TV copy, and we'll roll with that. Like we caught the cadence of a couple teams when they were moving on the quarterback cadence and down and set all that. Oh yeah, we're using that. So there's no doubt in my mind Illinois did it. And it's something to watch out for. But it's good. I like that Matt Rule came to the defense of his team. Now I'm sure internally he's telling them it don't matter, but that's part of the coach.
Yeah,
it's not just for this game, right? We won this game. It's for the future, and so you're not gonna. I like that because he's letting you know, look, I'm on everything. So as a coach or opposing coach or a referee crew, this dude's on it. He ain't missing nothing. So let's go to the text line. What we got here, because I know we got a couple minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can get to this one. And if you guys got any more, 402-464-5685. That is the Starter Heyman text line. Also, catch us streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Allo Channel 951. Feel free to put comments there as well. But unknown texter, Chris in Omaha asked, at this point in the season, how do you just get the offensive line to block better? Is it possible at this point?
I will say this. I was, up early this morning and watched a big part of the game. I'll tell you this. It was after the explosive play. It was 2nd and 2. And they ran kind of like an ISO play. So they had great movement on the left side. I mean, they punched a hole in that Illinois defense. They won. They were stalemate on the backside. Guys on guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tackle for loss came from because the receiver didn't dig out the corner. But what's everybody saying? It's the offensive line's problem. Now, I will say this. In the second half, I was a little disappointed in the push. But let's not forget, and I'm going to answer it, I'm going to say in short time, which is that game. Overall, I think they can get better and can get more consistent. And I talked about in the pregame show with Amon Green, I called it direct access. Amon calls it penetration. I think it's different, because I'm a defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
Direct access, Harrison, you just whiffed. Thank you. I'm going to get a sack or tackle for loss. Penetration is I have a stunt. I punch a hole in you, but you are on me and you're taking me wherever I want. Then it's on the running back, quarterback, whoever is having the ball to adjust off of it, right? Because you got to
use the defender's momentum against them.
You have to.
Yeah, because you're already beat.
But there was penetration. So I was a little disappointed in this game with the inability to get some push, right? Legitimate push. And I think that's what hurt the offense, right? And then I also think that Heinrich Harburg in the first half, which set up to the second half, wasn't very efficient when they were running the option. I felt like there was like 3 or 4 times Anthony Grant could have had 30, 40-yard gains if he pitched it. Now,
Matt Rule's he said that a few times now,
right.
Where he's got to figure that out.
Right. And he's got to press the end. He's got to press the outside defender harder too, like run straight at him. He bows it. So, but that's what the bye week's for. No time like the present to look at every single play, good and bad, and you need to get better. But I think also we have to recognize that Illinois, when they felt like they had a little life, you got to think they go in the halftime down 17-7. You're going to get their best effort defensively. And you got 2 guys that are draftable. I hope Randolph is not, he went out with not a little injury, with an injury. Seemed like it'd be like an ankle injury, so he should be okay. But you got 3 NFL dudes up front, a couple of NFL linebackers, and you got guys that are playing at home. They're going to fly around, especially when they know that you're not really efficient in the passing game. You got to think for the passing game, Heinrich Harburg overall was 12 of 24 with a pick. Now, let's also think we got to look at how this game went. Before halftime, there was at least 4 or 5 passes that Illinois should have picked off. Now, it would probably led to 1 interception because it was through 2 series.
Mm-hmm.
So defensively, going into halftime, I can tell you what the coordinator's saying. We have got the bow up against the run, and we feel very comfortable against the pass. Marcus Washington's out. Billy Kemp's more of a short area guy. Thomas Fidone is obviously 6'6". We can lock in on him. So that's how you see a defense play a little bit better against the run, but our offensive line didn't get enough push either.
Yeah, it was one of those games where I was looking for more, but receiver-wise, we're really starting to get thin out there. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge going forward is how do we get more explosive plays? We had that one that we talked about that was huge after the goal line stand to get a 41-yard gain. But other than that, I mean, just going throughout all the games we've had so far, explosive plays are hard to come by for this offense. So we're just going to have to kind of keep leaning into field position and that defense because, again, we're not going to be able to get those guys going at this point. We get to see Malachi Coleman a little bit.
You got to catch.
You can tell big up
to Malachi Coleman. Came in, caught it like it was nothing. Looked like just another day at the office. And there was another pass.
You got good separation too.
Yeah, there's another pass that he was wide open that Heinrich missed him, and that was one that was almost intercepted. So that's letting you know he's actually able to kind of run this offensive system. This bye week or these next 2 weeks are huge for Doss, Malachi Coleman, and Lloyd. Forget red shirts, dude. If I'm them, I'm playing that. I'm all three of us going to listen.
I think Coleman's has already burned his red shirt.
But I'm saying I need it now. But it's one thing. Sometimes I think young guys burn their own red shirt because they're so infatuated of being out there. So that's a participatory burning your red shirt. Oh no, homeboy. Now you got to play. Now you're no longer. And I would say this to those three. Because they're freshmen. You're no longer a freshman. You already played 6 games. You've been around for 6 weeks. You've been around for 10 weeks, including preseason. You're no longer a freshman. Doss maybe because he's been hurt. Mm-hmm. But Lloyd and Coleman, put him in there. That's your future, dude. You got a dude that both of them can take the top off. You got a big body receiver, and you got a guy that's tough as nails from Omaha West Side. And then you got Doss that's probably more polished than both of them. Not start him. Put him in there. You got to. We have no receivers left.
Yeah.
You got any eligibility? You look pretty fast. Can you separate? You look like a 50-50 guy. You could catch. I think you could get up Moss.
The drag specialist. I'll just find a pocket and put it in park. But I mean Malachi Coleman, the more you talk about it, there is that opportunity for him. And I will say this, watching him, because obviously as soon as he goes in the game, your eyes pick up on it because you're like, okay, let's see what he has. He was getting pretty good separation on his routes. He was which surprised me as a younger guy. Pretty good separation just on simple routes, and he was giving Heinrich Harburg plenty of time,
right?
Like open windows to go ahead and sling it in there. So maybe down the stretch, that is a guy that can keep leaning on because we talked about before, but Marcus Washington, we'll see how long he's out. But he's even past the bye week, I don't think he's back in 2 weeks. From now.
And so when you think about it, one more thing about the offensive line, right? And did they play perfect? No, I felt like they could play better in the second half. But I always look at 2 things. One, they gave up 1 sack, right? One of them was by, to Jazan Newton, NFL player. But they kept him in check. He only had 1 solo tackle. Only 3 tackles for loss. Flip side, Nebraska had 3 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. Wasn't all as bad. Our offensive line, quite as kept, outperformed them. Now, you're not getting a gold standard, but they played better than Illinois. So, good first segment. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. We're going to take a break, come right back. Dive more into some details. I'm going to give my defensive player of the game, offensive player of the game, talk about the bye week. Jay Foreman. Well, I'll be right back. This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
Whether you're booking a trip to Lincoln for a football game or a volleyball weekend, the Scarlet Hotel at Innovation Campus is the place for you. The Scarlet Hotel is special on many levels, from the delicious Well and Good restaurant on the main floor to the coolest rooftop patio bar in Lincoln, the Barred Owl, on the top floor of the hotel with great views of the city and one of the coolest drink menus. Book your stay or book a staycation today at scarlethotelnebraska.com.
Long hikes with friends, kayaking adventures with family, more horseback riding, zipline gliding, rock face climbing, hammock camping fun than you could ever imagine. And it's all outdoors, amongst the trees and across the prairie, here beneath Nebraska skies. Plan an outing today at yournebraskaadventure.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
College football in Lincoln, America. The time has come. Start your game day off right with the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show. Join the ticket crew as they bring you all the coverage you need to get you ready for the action. It's the A1 Automotive Ticket Tailgate pregame show, powered by Sunbelt Rentals. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador, Select Plumbing, Jimmy John's, Lincoln Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits, Fleet Feet, Bure's Cheese Spread on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Okay, kids, Dad's gonna teach you how to dance. First, spread your feet apart. Then, pump your knee, nod your head, shake your hips, and bite your lip ever so slightly. Now, with one hand in the air, point at people with the other hand. I call that the rock star.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
Now, make a face like it just smells something bad.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Serve Nebraska believes that volunteers are part of what makes Nebraska great. Each year, the Step Forward Awards honors volunteers from across the state who serve their communities in outstanding ways. We hope you'll join us this year at the Step Forward Awards luncheon on October 27th in Omaha. Help us thank volunteers with a celebration to remember. To register, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Register Now. We hope to see you there. Paid for by Serve Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you, I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Ashiro's work is never done. You care for the house, the kids, and our future. We're so grateful for all you do. Now it's time to care for yourself and save a little more for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to boost your retirement savings now. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro today.
A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Back to Inside the Huddle, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging. Here is your host, Jay Foreman.
We're back inside the Huddle, brought to you by the Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Can take care of all your pain needs, give you a unique and clear game plan to some relief. They've helped me out tremendously, and I appreciate their help and support. The second segment, we're going to look at the defense and the players of the game. I was going to try to pick one, but I think that there's some guys that I think this was a game where guys had to step up, right? Where you think Singleton is out for a significant time. Luke Reimer's out for to be determined. Mm-hmm. And you had Cam Linhart, who played, but obviously is not healthy. So, and he's been gone, right? And so then you had to move a whole bunch of guys around to fill in for Luke Reimer. You had to have position guys around in the back end to fill the loss of Singleton, right? You had Phelan Sanford step in and start. Then you kind of looked like they moved Hartzog to more of a nickel kind of safety position. And then Tommy Hill had to go in. And so the first guy that jumped off, obviously, I think Isaac Gifford played well. You know, he had 8 tackles and a tackle for loss, and he was pretty active, right? 3 pass breakups. That's a pretty good. I mean, that's not pretty good. That's a heck of a day at the office, considering that he probably went from the rover to a post safety, vice versa. But give it up to him, you know, where played a little bit last year, played different roles, was patient, has been patient. You got to think how his journey was. He should have been a scholarship athlete. They asked him to walk on, put his nose to the ground and beat out some guys and outperform guys. And now here he is. He's a big factor in defense because he can do multiple things. And then you have give Phelan Stanford. He didn't look out of place. He made some plays, right? Made a big, huge forced fumble. They popped in right to Tommy Hill. Game-changing play. Stop a momentum. He steps up. So there's 2 guys that really need to step up for different reasons. One that's been playing, had to play a different position. One guy that hadn't been playing, you got to start. That's a different, and also didn't take a step back on special teams for Sanford. He's in there. And then I want to give it up to Jamari Butler, right? 1.5 sacks, 1.5 tackles for losses. Very active. Has been ever since he's came back. I think he's had a sack a game. So he's approaching 4 sacks already. Active, strong, dependable, and has really settled down that position. He kind of plays defensive end, jack, wherever they want. And he's really stepped up. He's a guy that, you know, you got to think he was in the portal and probably on his way down to, you know, Columbia, Missouri, I think. Matt Rule, you know, saw the potential in him, assuming, and wanted to have a conversation with him when he came back. And I was happy because I wanted him to stay because I know why he was frustrated. You know, they brought in, what's the dude that came in from TCU last year? Didn't do anything, but
yeah. Give me 1 second. I'll get it.
Yeah,
I know.
That lets you know how bad he was. He didn't do anything, but he came in, and then Jamari had to, you know, play second fiddle and didn't get as much, didn't get to develop. So a lot of pressure was on him, and you know, he stepped up to the plate. So, you know, you wonder how you're able to find ways to, you know, eke out an ugly win. That's it. And then you got to give it up Quentin Newsom, right? Got his first interception, 40-yard return. Has been close multiple times. I mean, he had the great interception that, you know, got called out, which was a couple weeks ago. So, you know, it was coming, right? And so those guys that, you know, and all of the guys that played well, but you want to give them, you know, their kudos because they really step up. And then you got like secondary players like Javen Wright, Nash Hutmacher, that have really, you know, kind of been bright spots. The whole defense has been bright to the point that where you have multiple guys playing. The list of guys that get in games and make, you know, a tackle or a play is a lot longer than it had been in previous years. So that, you know, that's credit to the coaching staff, the players, and the whole thing that they got going on over there. And then also
O'Shawn Mathis,
right?
That's TCU.
Yeah. And then also for special teams, Taggy, number 56. No, granted, it's the number that he's wearing, right? 56. He's a dude he's a program build dude. And he's coming in, undersized linebacker, fast, nasty. Obviously, he's got a little bit of family heritage with your last name Taggy, and has embraced his role as a backup linebacker, coverage linebacker at times last year, and a special teams guy. And who was right there on the fumble on kickoff? Him. Now, so very easy when there's so many kicks that go out of the end zone, you could jog down there. He's going 100 miles an hour. You play hard, good things happen to you. And so those like 4 or 5 guys, and there's a lot more, definitely deserve to be highlighted because they played a big role in Nebraska being able to, you know, pull out this game.
I thought Princewell played pretty well too. And that I was happy because Matt Rule kept talking about that.
Right.
Like, this is a guy, and you kind of talked about Butler, but you put Princewell at that jack position, that frees Butler up a little bit, and you can move him around. And we've seen he can be an explosive, dynamic playmaker on the defensive side of the ball. So you can keep the defense guessing where he's going to line up.
Right.
Like, that's where I was at because those two together, if those guys are both playing well, those are guys that can wreak havoc on that defense.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is Prince is like long. He don't even know anything. He just out there just, you know what I'm saying? He out there just playing.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's got that build kind of like Chandler Jones, you know what I mean? And where you're long, he's strong, that he's stronger than he looks, wiry, but he's quick. And he's kind of slithery, you know, when he gets inside.
A little bit like, I don't want to say like Javen Wright, but kind of like slithery, but a little stronger.
Right.
A little stronger.
Yeah, a little bit more, you know, naturally stronger. And then you got Jamari Butler that gives you position flexibility, and both of them are making plays, so they're exceeding in their roles, right? And so that can build depth. And so, you could eventually move MJ Sherman. You're able to move Makai Gabert, to the inside linebacker. MJ Sherman could be a possibility. Then you're allowed to do more things with John Bullock, and you're able to do things with Nick Henrich. Then he was pretty active. I want to give him props. He had a tackle for loss and played well. So you're able to build depth by allowing your young guys to do things that they're naturally good at. And that's what a coach and a coaching staff is supposed to do. And that's what Tony White's done. Is it perfect? No. Is there a lot of improvement that needs to be done? Sure. But it's a great way to go in the bye week to be able to have things that you've done well and things that you didn't do well. You can always refer back to that Michigan game. And then they're able to actually take that Sunday practice as something that they wanted to replicate into the game situation. So they have some checkpoints that can keep them in check, but then also motivate them, and especially on the defense and special teams. And they've done a really good job of exceeding expectations. And then offensively, you could easily be Heinrich Harburg or somebody like that. But I want Thomas Fidone. For the last 2 years, he's had some unfortunate injuries, in practice, never in the game. So first of all, to be steadfast, motivated, confident in yourself, to keep hitting the rehab and the reset button. Probably could have played some last year. Then you get back for spring and they hold you about a little bit. Every week he's getting better and better. You want to give him his props, man. I mean, listen, I know, he kind of put himself out there on Twitter what his long-term goals are. And, I probably wouldn't have done that. But, at the end of the day, I'm looking at what he's doing on the field. They're targeting him more. He got 6 targets. That's a quarterback's best friend. He caught 3 of them. Big pass, with the 21-yarder, kind of soften the defense up and kind of give the, quarterback confidence. So, for him, you want to give props because the mental toughness that it takes to come back from 2 injuries as a young player that hadn't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
And every week he's getting better. The first couple games, he's like, oh, yeah, I don't know if it's going to be there. Then as he started to play, you start to see some more. And and he's getting better and better. And along with Borkature, they're starting to, be a decent little duo. And if they can create a kind of connection with Harburg, you can see this offense hopefully take off. So those are my kind of like players of the games, guys, I want to highlight. Harburg played good. I think he played a little bit better. The passing, the passing and for him, he's doing a lot of things good. He's winning, right? He's physical. He's tough with the ball. You got to get a little bit better. Illinois, that's Jim Leonard up there, ran a couple of different coverages on you. And that's what you expect with a young quarterback. But we got to get those fundamentals under wraps, young man.
Mm-hmm. He's got to work on that touch pass and that option game a little bit.
The option game is crucial.
That's a feel thing. So I'm not gonna say he's just bad at it. I do think that just takes time.
It's a rep, and watch it. Mental note. And be willing to make mistakes in practice.
Yep.
Go full speed, right? The passing has to do with fundamentals. And when you watch him warm up before the game, he don't do this. I think he's just in the mode, get the job done. But that's where the touch is so sporadic.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the inaccuracy is so sporadic. He's a big, strong kid that doesn't use his big base and strong legs to be more accurate and to play the position of quarterback better. There's some things that he does, like getting the ball out at different angles and getting the ball. He has a coach.
Nice sidearm to Fidone, the guy we were just calling out later. That was a big,
big play.
The chains, get the first down.
He has arm strength though, and so and plus let's also be realistic about him. He was a second team quarterback that was in the second. At the beginning of the season, you didn't even know if he was second team because remember Matt Rule, they had Chuba Purdy kind of over him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's your second or third team quarterback going into the season, and somebody that potentially was doing a position change. I mean, he played tight end the first game, and hadn't played since high school. So I think at least 3 years, right? And you got to think last year. I have no problem saying this. You had an offensive coordinator and a quarterback coach that didn't coach him and wouldn't coach him. So again, you talk about Fidone. Think about him. He could have very easily packed this stuff up and probably transferred to University of Kearney or Northern Iowa or something and be starting. But he chose to stay here and embrace a small percentage of opportunity. Because think when Rule got here, you still had Casey here, had way more. Because if Casey was still here, he'd be starting.
It wasn't certain he was going anywhere.
Well, yeah, and then you had Jeff Sims, and then you had
Purdy over
him too. So to have that fortitude, that takes some toughness, man. Because that's I've been in that position. When I went into my first spring game, I looked at the depth chart. It's funny, Harrison. The depth chart there was like 7 of us. I was 7, right? But the funny thing about it is, I don't know if you ever seen the program when the dude sees his name. I kept looking at 1, 2, 3 like there was a misprint. And then I was like, oh, maybe 4. And I kept going. I'm like, number 7. I will never forget my first spring practice, first padded practice. I think either whatever, or the first week. I think I counted up all the reps I got in team settings, and it was probably about 7. The first practice, I think I got 2 reps. I have no problem saying I went back to the dorms and I was crying. I was like, dude, I'm never gonna make it. I was like, they might send me home. I didn't know any different.
Well, that's the error too. I mean, they had guys.
Well, yeah.
So
but here's the problem: you had 2 seniors that left. So I was like, it's open competition. But they had guys that they felt more comfortable with. And I was a redshirt freshman, and I needed to get in the weight room. I showed up pretty much like malnourished. I was doing everything I could, to get stronger and stuff. But I was like, man, I'm not getting a chance. I ain't never going to play. But then I very easily could have said, okay, I accept it and just kind of been a guy that just loved the, sweatsuits and steaks. Or I was like, hey, listen, man, I remember having this conversation with my uncle. He was like, listen, your last name is Foreman. You ain't quitting. And, then I made a play. Then I got, like 12 reps. And then a couple guys were, remember one guy that was way more athletically gifted than me. He got in trouble with academics, so he couldn't play. He couldn't practice. And another guy got hurt. So you go from 5th to like 4th or 5th, or 7th to 4th to 5th, like that. And I've been doing decent. And then once that opportunity, that small little opportunity, kind of like Heinrich Harper had, then I took off with it. And so the rest is history. So, the bye week is huge for a team like this. And so if they approach it the same with the mindset of, we did some good things in one, we have a lot to improvement, they'll come out of this bye week a better team and beat Northwestern. The biggest thing for this team, and this is because it's so new, this is a new team, obviously, right? You're the same players, new team. And the coaching staff is dealing with success and handling this bye week like it's a game week. Have a plan. You just aren't playing on Saturday. There isn't a day off. Now, granted, I'm sure Rule gave him a day off, but it's a work day. It's work week. This is the season. So you might have a day off. That's it. If you got to go recruit, we got to recruit hard because we got a lot of improvement to do. And then also during this bye week, it's huge for these the receivers. This is a game week for you. You should be trying to get all these reps. It's huge for the offensive line. We need more continuity. It might not be as physically pounding. We have got to get better. If they do that during the bye week, it'll set them up for Nebraska's success in 2023. For making a bowl game. If they sit back and rest on their laurels like you got everything figured out, well, then you're going to have a lot more questions at the end of the season. So there's a lot on the line with this bye week. I think they'll do it right, and as long as they approach it right. But we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back with a very short segment, I'm going to give my thoughts on
the Miami meltdown. And it hits at home. I grew up Miami Hurricane household.
I love Mario Cristobal. If I don't vote I pull for Nebraska every weekend, I pull for Miami as well. That hurt me, man.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, well, everybody in my family went to Miami besides me.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure your family line was probably blowing up yesterday, too. Though.
My dad has not returned a text message. He mad. So I'm going to give my thoughts on that. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging. We'll be right back. This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative problems in both of my ankles, but thanks to a thorough and thought-out plan provided by Advanced Medical Imaging, I was able to get my life back with the least amount of pain as possible. While working through multiple options, the team of physicians at Advanced Medical Imaging were there to answer any questions I had. If you're experiencing any pain at all and want to get your life back, go to amimaging.com or give them a call at 402-484-6677. Advanced Medical Imaging, located at 7601 Pioneers Boulevard.
The dangers of secondhand smoke are well known. But what about secondhand aerosol, which is created when using e-cigarettes? Science already shows a secondhand aerosol can contain nicotine, heavy metals, and cancer-causing agents. Eliminating exposure to secondhand aerosol is an important step to keeping everyone safe. Breathe easier knowing the facts.
For help quitting, call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
My early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
But it gave my mom and me more time to plan together.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you wanna come and text us,
If you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music,
This is Mommy's jam.
then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, "Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket," and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions. You're listening to Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman, sponsored by Advanced Medical Imaging.
We're back. Jay Foreman, Inside the Huddle, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging, 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Last segment before we hand it over to Pete Ferguson and his crew. He always does good things. Sunday mornings or Sundays is always fun-filled and packed here at the Ticket. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the two big games, right? You had the Red River rivalry between Oklahoma and Texas, and Oklahoma went onions on them. And Dylan Gabriel is now etched in history of that game. played out of his mind, was unstoppable, and Texas collapsed.
I thought Texas was the number one team in the country.
I did too.
Going into it, both teams are still, they still should be favorites probably, but yeah, nonetheless,
Yeah,
impressive win for Oklahoma. Caleb Williams.
It was one of the best games of the year, which it always is a great game, regardless of the records. The thing I was impressed about with Oklahoma is how physical they were, and maybe it's like Texas. I felt like when Texas played Alabama, they were way more physical than Alabama. So Texas, transition to the SEC might be, a little bit better. Now it's one game, so you just never know. But that was, needless to say, a great game. And but then on the flip side, it was a sleepy game. Georgia Tech at Miami. Georgia Tech is 2-3. Miami 4-0, looking to go 5-0. Thinking that they grab a couple more victories, and they might be in the position to get to the championship game or get into a New Year's Day bowl game, right? All the stuff that Mario Cristobal came in, great staff, made some staff changes, pushing the alumni and the powers that be to invest in facilities and stuff like that. And here you are. And now I would tell you this is the way that Miami was ending this game is how 99.9% of the coaches want to end the game. Ball in the offense's hands, and you're running the clock out. Georgia Tech had one timeout, right? Burn their timeout. Miami got the first down, ran the ball. Georgia Tech another timeout. Miami ran it on second down. At this point in time, there was less than a minute left in the game.
Yeah,
it's 50-something seconds. So the play clock is what, 35 seconds?
Yep.
So 35 plus 35 is 70. That's higher than 58 seconds. Give it up to the announcers. They said, "Listen, I don't know what he's doing. You just kneel it and the game's over."
Yeah, they were pretty critical, and they should have been.
And even the play before, even on the second down play, somehow, some way, and granted, they were running the ball, but there's always that one. It's not even a 1% chance. It's like a 0.0001% chance.
Especially when Georgia Tech knows we got to rip this ball.
We got to rip the ball out.
Yeah.
So they ran it all the way down, and they ran the ball on third down. Now, Carey, the runner, to me, looked like he was down. But here's the problem. It was ruled a fumble on the field, and the angles weren't very good. And Georgia Tech ripped the ball out as he was going down. Now, if you said it's a fumble after reviewing it, I could deal with it. If you said he was down, I can understand it as well. But it was ruled a fumble on the field, right? Georgia Tech gets the ball because they couldn't overturn it. They come out and run they run an under route and kind of like a 7 cut by the slot receiver. The nickel corner or the nickel safety or whatever goes for the interception. Mind you, Georgia Tech has no timeouts left.
And there's 2 seconds when they snap the ball.
Right.
So
but no, that's the play leading. This is the cause and effect. The Miami defender misses it. Georgia Tech receiver goes about 8 or 9 more yards, gets out of bounds, sets up the play. So now you tackle them in bounds and you lay on them a little bit. You get slow up. You can maybe tap the ball a little bit or something. It's done. Well, Miami didn't either. Well, they had a good rush. They ran a defensive line stunt, which is probably not the thing that you want to do because, first of all, everybody's just nervous and on anxiety. Because look, those dudes, the defenders, I bet you a lot of them had their tape off their wrist. So their pass rush and run it. Well, the Georgia Tech quarterback did a really good job break and contain. They went in the scramble drill to the receiver number 6, Carey, who actually transferred from Alabama to get an opportunity at Georgia Tech. And then I think Georgia Tech's quarterback in the transfer portal came from a Big 12 school. Broke contained, looked like Brett Favre, dropped a dime to Carey. Kitchens, probably one of the, if not the best safety, one of the best safeties. He does also the Cardinals thing, right? Goes for the pick, misses, right? Bites up on it. Carey catches it. Game time. Walk off. You know what it is?
Well, they got the kick return that they threw Chuck in the backfield forever.
Yeah, that's done. That was game. That was it. That game. It was game time.
Yeah.
You know what it is? You know, it was that game, And you know what else? It must be like Miami and Florida State. It was also, this reminded me of when Jacksonville State beat Florida State on the walk-off. A sleepy Saturday after there's been some upsets. Florida State dominated the whole game. I was like, man, these dudes ain't going to get it. Game. But Florida State got outplayed in that game because Jacksonville State kept playing.
Yeah, this was worse.
This was a coaching error of epic magnitude. It's your 5th win when you're trying to build your team back to get back to respectability and national prominence. You as a coach can't do that. And what's going to be most interesting is the hangover for next week. He's lost faith to some players because as much as you're demanding on the players, the players are demanding of the coaches and expecting you to make those right decisions.
Didn't put him in position to win.
No, and you saw the linemen crying.
Yeah.
I mean, it took it to heart, man. That was a tough game. Georgia Tech ain't no punk. You had it. You lost it. The coaches lost it. Jed Fish, I love you, my brother. You should have went for 2. Anytime that you can upset a team like that and you're at Arizona, you got to go for 2. I understand it, but I believe in Jed Fish out there, the Arizona Wildcats. I gave you a pass today because Mario Cristobal saved you. So send him some flowers, man. But always the quickest hour in the dark times of Sunday morning. Inside the Huddle with Jay Foreman, brought to you by Advanced Medical Imaging 7601 Pioneers Boulevard. Holla at you next week. This is former Husker and NFL linebacker Jay Foreman. For years, I've suffered from degenerative